The storm will test you. The world will try to break you. But you must learn to act as if survival was always your destiny. You weren't made to crumble, you were forged for the fire. When you act like you were meant to endure, you unlock resilience, clarity, and inner strength that fear cannot touch. But if you hesitate, you give weakness permission to lead. Will you stand tall through the trial or bow before the pressure? And the outcome is already forming by your mindset. In just a few moments, you'll learn how to command your mind to survive, adapt, and rise through any storm. You are stronger than you believe. There is a voice inside you that whispers when no one is around, "I can't go on." But that voice is a lie. You were meant to survive what you are facing. The fire you're in was not made to burn you. It was made to refine you. Every human being, when put under pressure, either breaks or becomes unbreakable. Which one you become is entirely up to you. When you act as if you were meant to survive, your mind shifts from panic to power. Struggles don't disappear, but you stop shrinking before them. And that single shift in posture makes the impossible possible. Because survival is not about conditions, it's about conviction. Most people fail because they wait to feel ready. But survival isn't a feeling, it's a decision. You act strong not because you feel strong, but because your life demands it. Take Winston Churchill. When bombs rained over London and the world expected Britain to fold, Churchill stood with unshakable resolve. He didn't wait to feel safe to lead. He led, so others felt safe. That's what surviving tough times looks like. You don't run from the storm, you become the storm. So the next time fear tells you to give up, act like you were born for this, because you were. You've survived every dark day before this one, haven't you? Don't forget that. You have already proven you're stronger than what tried to break you. All that remains is to act accordingly. Strength and growth come only through continuous effort and struggle. Decide who you will be in adversity. Tough times don't define you, they reveal you. When the world presses down on your shoulders, will you collapse or will you carry the weight and keep walking? The choice is always yours. People wait for the storm to pass. Winners learn to dance in the rain. You don't get to decide the weather of life, but you do get to decide how you respond to it. When you decide in advance that you are the kind of person who rises, then no storm can truly defeat you because you've already claimed your identity before adversity arrived. And when your identity is solid, circumstances lose their power over you. That's the secret most people miss. They think endurance comes from inspiration. It doesn't. It comes from identity. You must ask yourself daily, who am I when things get hard? When Thomas Edison's laboratory burned down, along with years of experiments, he didn't weep. He rebuilt. Not because he wanted to, but because he had already decided who he was. He was not a man who quit. He didn't need motivation. He had a mindset. You must decide the same. When you act like you were built for adversity, you become unshakable. Not because the pain goes away, but because your purpose gets louder than your panic. Stop waiting to feel prepared. Decide. And let that decision carry you through. Every adversity, every failure, every heartache carries with it the seed of an equal or greater benefit. Fear only grows if you feed it. Fear announces itself with a thunderous voice, demanding your full attention. It pounds at your door like an unwelcome visitor, insistent on entry. But here's the truth. Though it screams for acknowledgement, you need not answer. Fear casts a long shadow across your path, appearing massive and insurmountable. Yet shadows distort reality. Step into different light, and that giant shrinks to its actual size. The secret isn't fighting fear head-on, it's starving it of what gives it power, your attention. How do you accomplish this? By acting as though fear holds no authority over you. Each step toward what terrifies you diminishes fear's control. Hesitation, however, feeds the very beast you wish to tame. Worry and avoidance are the nutrients fear craves most. With each moment of inaction, fear multiplies its strength, growing roots into your decision-making. This explains why countless dreams remain unrealized. Too many souls nourish what was destined to perish. They water seeds of doubt instead of cultivating courage. Remember, courage isn't the absence of fear, but rather the decision to act as though victory is already yours. Abraham Lincoln. Before becoming one of America's most revered presidents, he endured 8 election defeats. He He faced public humiliation, financial hardship, and periods of profound depression, yet he carried himself as though leadership was his destiny, long before anyone believed in him. This is the master key to conquering fear, entering the battlefield before your emotions have caught up. Fear speaks the language of what if. Courage speaks the language of even if resilience. What if I fail? Asks fear. Even if I fail, I'll learn and grow stronger, answers courage. Starting today, redirect your attention. Stop feeding fear with anxious thoughts and catastrophic scenarios. Instead, nourish your faith with purposeful action. The ability you seek already resides within you. Doubt merely obscures it from view. Every survivor, every champion, every person who accomplished something meaningful began with trembling hands. The difference is they acted despite the trembling. You must do the same. When fear whispers that you're inadequate, answer with action. When it suggests retreat, advance boldly. When it paints pictures of disaster, create masterpieces of hope. The antidote to fear has never been fearlessness. It's faithful movement in the direction of your dreams. Fears are nothing more than a state of mind. States can be altered, minds can be redirected. Fear only grows if you feed it, so choose carefully what you nourish. Walk toward what frightens you. Watch as the shadow shrinks with each determined step. By starving fear of your attention and feeding your courage through action, you'll discover what countless overcomers before you realized. The monster that once seemed unconquerable was merely waiting for you to claim your power. The power of mental disciplined pain arrives uninvited throughout life, knocking persistently at your door. Its presence is inevitable, but your response determines whether you'll be conquered or emerge victorious. Survival extends beyond physical strength. It demands rigorous mental training. Your mind must become your greatest weapon rather than your most crippling weakness. The tragedy of modern existence lies in how readily people surrender control to their emotions. They hand over the steering wheel to fleeting feelings, then express shock when their lives careen off course. True power emerges when you seize control deliberately. You must train your mind with the dedication of an elite soldier. Each thought carefully selected, every reaction intentional rather than reflexive. Strength never materializes through wishful thinking. It develops through consistent, disciplined training. When pressure mounts and others retreat, your conditioned response must be unwavering. Stand your ground. History provides us profound examples of mental discipline in action. George Washington led the Continental Army through brutal winters at Valley Forge, where soldiers endured starvation, freezing conditions, and seemingly insurmountable odds. What separated Washington was not just his leadership, but his extraordinary mental discipline. He systematically trained his men, and more crucially, conditioned his mind to anticipate hardship without breaking. This exemplifies discipline's transformative power. It forges a mind that remains steadfast when tested. The cultivation of mental discipline cannot be postponed. You must begin immediately. The undisciplined merely react to circumstances, tossed about by life's unpredictability. The disciplined respond with intentionality, shaping circumstances to their advantage. Build structured rituals that govern your days. Establish non-negotiable routines that align with your highest aspirations. Master your mornings, for how you begin each day sets its trajectory. Discipline functions as the sturdy rope that pulls you from mental darkness into clarity and purpose. When inevitable storms strike, and they will with devastating force, prior preparation determines your outcome. D. The disciplined mind doesn't scramble for solutions during crisis. It activates pre-established response patterns developed through consistent training. Your preparedness won't result from a more accommodating world, but from your enhanced mental fortitude. Mental discipline manifests in seemingly small choices: rising at the scheduled hour despite fatigue, completing tasks despite discomfort, honoring commitments despite inconvenience. These daily victories compound into extraordinary strength over time. The undisciplined seek motivation before action. The disciplined understand that action precedes motivation. Self-discipline begins with the mastery of your thoughts. If you don't control what you think, you can't control what you do. Mastering your internal dialogue creates the bedrock upon which extraordinary accomplishment rests. Your thoughts shape your beliefs, which determine your actions, which establish your habits, which form your character, which ultimately decide your destiny. Mental discipline interrupts negative thought patterns before they cascade into destructive behaviors. Begin today. Start small but remain consistent. Identify one area requiring greater discipline and establish clear parameters. Monitor your thoughts without attachment, redirecting them toward productive channels. Construct morning and evening rituals that reinforce your highest values. Embrace discomfort as the necessary pathway to growth. Remember, mental discipline doesn't eliminate life's difficulties. It transforms you into someone capable of confronting them with unwavering resolve. When pain next knocks at your door, you'll answer not with fear, but with the quiet confidence that comes from a rigorously trained mind. Belief is your first line of defense when life's foundation trembles beneath you. What ultimately prevents your collapse? Not wealth, which can vanish overnight, not even your support network, which may falter during true crisis. Your genuine stronghold is belief. Unwavering conviction in your destined path, your inherent resilience, and your capacity to outlast this challenging season. Without deep-seated belief, your actions lack foundation. Without belief, survival becomes mere chance rather than intentional triumph. The most transformative skill you must develop is believing before seeing tangible evidence. During life's harshest seasons, external validation becomes scarce. The world may offer no visible proof that persistence matters, but belief functions as your internal guidance system, illuminating your path when all other lights extinguish. This journey begins with a simple yet profound declaration: I was not made to break. This single affirmation can ignite inner fire when your external world feels frozen in darkness. Helen Keller's extraordinary journey. Rendered deaf and blind in infancy, conventional wisdom suggested severe limitation. But through Anne Sullivan's unwavering belief and Helen's disciplined spirit, she systematically dismantled every perceived boundary. She graduated college with honors, authored 12 books, and traveled to 39 countries advocating for those with disabilities. Helen never physically saw hope, yet she believed in it absolutely. That conviction transformed her from someone society pitied into someone the world revered. Belief doesn't deny difficulty, it transcends it. Belief acknowledges obstacles while simultaneously recognizing your capacity to overcome them. It whispers constantly, "This challenge exists, and you were designed to conquer it." Without this foundation, even minor setbacks can appear insurmountable. With it, even staggering odds cannot permanently defeat you. When darkness next surrounds you, resist asking the typical question, how do I escape this situation? Instead, pose the more powerful inquiry, what must I believe to endure this season? This subtle shift changes everything. The first question seeks external solutions. The second activates internal power. Once belief firmly roots within you, appropriate actions flow naturally. Your survival becomes not just possible, but inevitable. Belief operates as both shield and sword. As shield, it protects you from despair's corrosive effects. As sword, it cuts through limitations others accept as permanent. Both functions prove essential for navigating life's unavoidable storms. Cultivate belief daily through deliberate practice. Feed your mind empowering truths rather than destructive doubts. Study histories of those who transcended seemingly impossible circumstances. Document your past victories, however small. Surround yourself with voices that strengthen rather than undermine your conviction. Most importantly, speak belief over yourself consistently, especially when external evidence contradicts it. Remember, belief isn't wishful thinking or blind optimism. True belief acknowledges reality while simultaneously refusing to be defined by it. It recognizes pain while denying pain the power to determine your future. It sees obstacles clearly while maintaining unwavering confidence in your ability to overcome. What the mind can conceive and believe, belief creates the mental blueprint that precedes physical manifestation. When life next tests you, and it surely will, remember that belief isn't just one defensive resource. It's your first and most crucial line of defense. Without it, other strategies crumble. With it, Even seemingly insurmountable challenges become temporary hurdles on your path to ultimate triumph. Turn pain into purpose. Pain itself is not your enemy. It's pain without purpose that truly destroys. The crucial difference lies in your perception. You must approach your suffering not as random misfortune, but as deliberate preparation for something greater. Survival transcends merely enduring hardship. It demands transforming that hardship into something more powerful. Every scar you bear must serve a higher function. When it doesn't, it festers within you, becoming a wound that never truly heals. The transformation begins the moment you assign meaning to your pain. This simple yet profound shift changes everything. Pain that once weakened you now instructs you. What previously felt like an unbearable wound becomes a necessary lesson. This perspective shift represents your most powerful form of control. While pain remains inevitable throughout life, suffering becomes optional. You suffer only when you believe your pain serves no greater purpose in your story. Benjamin Disraeli, before ascending to become Britain's Prime Minister, he endured numerous devastating failures in Parliament. His maiden speech was met with such mockery and derision that he couldn't finish delivering it. And, yet crucially, he didn't retreat from public life. Instead, he absorbed each rejection, metabolized the humiliation into determination, and returned with doubled resolve. He approached each failure not as final defeat, but as essential training for future leadership. And history proved him right. Your challenge is identical. Transform your pain into preparation for something greater. Let it crystallize into clarity that wasn't possible before the suffering. Convert it into power that wouldn't exist without the resistance. Your hardship must become fuel propelling you forward rather than fire consuming you from within. Every painful moment presents a choice. Allow it to break you permanently, or let it become the precise reason you can never be broken again. Pain without purpose creates victims. Pain with purpose creates leaders. The difference lies not in the intensity of suffering, but in the meaning assigned to it. Those who transform their deepest wounds into their greatest wisdom ultimately lead others through similar valleys. Their scars become credentials, their struggles become strength, their tears become testimony. This transformation requires deliberate practice. Begin by examining your most significant pain points. Ask yourself, what might this be preparing me for? What strength might I be developing that wouldn't be possible without this challenge? Then act as if those answers are true, even before you fully believe them. Your actions will eventually align your emotions with this new perspective. Develop the discipline of mining meaning from misery. But when rejection strikes, extract the lesson. When failure visits, identify the growth. When loss overwhelms, look for the redirection. Nothing, absolutely nothing, need be wasted in your story. Even your darkest chapters can serve your brightest future if you assign them proper meaning. Every adversity brings with it the seed of an equivalent advantage. Your job is to find that seed, nurture it deliberately, and watch as something beautiful grows from soil once soaked with tears. The pain doesn't disappear. It transforms. It becomes the very foundation upon which you build an unshakable life. Remember, pain that serves no purpose weakens you twice, first in its arrival, then in its lingering. But pain channeled into purpose strengthens you twice, first through the resilience it builds, then through the wisdom it imparts. Choose transformation over victimhood. Choose purpose over pointlessness. Choose to make every scar serve your ultimate destiny. Move even when you feel stuck. Feeling stuck represents a state of mind, not an immutable reality. Life has a remarkable way of paralyzing us with fear, persuading us that progress requires emotional validation. But true progress isn't measured by feelings, it's measured by direction. When you continue moving forward, regardless of how sluggish or insignificant each step may seem, you are genuinely advancing. 1 inch of progress remains progress nonetheless. When immobility threatens to overwhelm you, motion becomes your most powerful weapon. This doesn't demand dramatic leaps. Simple steps suffice. Small, consistent actions systematically dismantle the barriers that appear insurmountable. The dangerous illusion lies in waiting for perfect circumstances before beginning. The truth? The perfect moment is always the first step taken despite uncertainty. Florence Nightingale's remarkable journey. Born into Victorian wealth and privilege, she confronted society's rigid expectations by pursuing nursing, a profession then considered beneath anyone of respectable social standing. Every societal convention urged her to remain within her prescribed boundaries. Family disapproval, professional skepticism, and military resistance all suggested she remain in place. Yet Nightingale persisted in forward motion. Her consistent steps toward her vision, establishing nursing protocols, documenting patient outcomes, implementing sanitation standards, ultimately revolutionized modern healthcare and saved countless lives. When you continue moving forward, regardless of how sluggish or insignificant each step may seem, you are genuinely advancing. 1 inch of progress remains progress nonetheless. When immobility threatens to overwhelm you, motion becomes your most powerful weapon. This doesn't demand dramatic leaps. Simple steps suffice. Small, consistent actions systematically dismantle the barriers that appear insurmountable. The dangerous illusion lies in waiting for perfect circumstances before beginning. The truth? The perfect moment is always the first step taken despite uncertainty. Florence Nightingale's remarkable journey. Born into Victorian wealth and privilege, she confronted society's rigid expectations by pursuing nursing, a profession then considered beneath anyone of respectable social standing. Every societal convention urged her to remain within her prescribed boundaries. Family disapproval, professional skepticism, and military resistance all suggested she remain in place. Yet Nightingale persisted in forward motion. Her consistent steps toward her vision, establishing nursing protocols, documenting patient outcomes, implementing sanitation standards, ultimately revolutionized modern healthcare and saved countless lives. Her story illustrates a fundamental truth. Progress often happens invisibly before it manifests visibly. During her early work in the Crimean War, mortality rates initially remained high despite her efforts. She might have felt stuck, but her continued action, collecting data, implementing reforms, advocating tirelessly, eventually reduced death rates from 42% to 2%. Her persistence when progress seemed absent made all the difference. When your internal dialogue insists you're not going anywhere, counter it with the powerful declaration, "Watch me take one more step." Action doesn't merely follow belief, it creates it. Each step, however small, represents your refusal to be defined by temporary limitations. Motion generates momentum, which eventually becomes its own force. And that momentum ultimately delivers freedom from the very stagnation that once threatened to define you. This principle applies universally. The author facing blank page paralysis who commits to writing just 50 words. The entrepreneur whose business seems stalled who makes one more call. The person battling depression who simply gets out of bed. These seemingly minor movements, when consistently executed, create pathways through psychological barriers that once appeared impenetrable. Feeling stuck often signals that you've outgrown your current circumstances, but haven't yet created new ones. This uncomfortable middle space, the liminal zone between what was and what will be, attempts many to retreat to familiar territory. Resist this urge. Instead, identify the smallest possible action that moves you forward, then take it immediately. Then another, then another. As Mark Twain wisely observed, don't wait. The time will never be just right. Perfect conditions represent another form of paralysis. The conditions become right precisely because you begin moving through imperfect ones. Remember, motion precedes motivation, not the reverse. Waiting to feel inspired before acting ensures continued stagnation. Acting creates the very inspiration you seek. Your feelings will eventually align with your actions, but only after those actions have been taken consistently. Today, identify where you feel most stuck. Then determine one small, concrete step forward. Take that step before the day ends. Movement, even microscopic, rewires your brain from I can't to I am, and that transition changes everything. Envision your future until it becomes real. You cannot survive what you cannot see yourself beyond. Vision serves as your essential survival map. Without it, you wander aimlessly through life's challenges. With it, you move purposefully toward your destiny. The fundamental problem isn't that people lack desire for improvement. It's that they haven't created a clear enough mental picture of what that improvement looks like. You must deliberately craft a future vision that outshines your past experiences. Hold this vision in your mind with the precision of an architect's blueprint, revisiting it daily until it transforms from imagination to reality. This transformation occurs not through magical thinking, but through deliberate movement toward what you've envisioned. When your vision gains clarity, your actions become strategic rather than scattered. Even apparent setbacks begin serving the future you're systematically building. Andrew Carnegie, beginning with grueling 12-hour shifts in a cotton mill for minimal compensation, he refused to see only his immediate circumstances. Beyond the deafening machinery and exhausting labor, Carnegie envisioned industrial empire. That clear vision guided him through daily hardship, providing context for his suffering and direction for his efforts. Methodically, brick by brick, he built the reality he first conceived in his mind, eventually becoming one of history's greatest philanthropists after amassing unprecedented wealth. Your path requires similar vision-directed persistence. Rather than fixating on current limitations, focus intently on your destination. Let that vivid mental picture drive every decision, eliminating options that don't align with your ultimate vision. When circumstances darken around you, resist the temptation to close your eyes in despair. Instead, open your mind wider to the possibilities that exist beyond present difficulties. Your future waits not to be discovered, but to be constructed. And this construction begins in your imagination. The mind's capacity to envision creates the foundation upon which reality is built. Without this blueprint, your efforts lack direction. With it, even small actions accumulate meaningful momentum. This explains why two people facing identical circumstances can experience dramatically different outcomes. The difference lies not in external factors, but in what each person sees beyond their current reality. Practical vision requires specificity. Vague hopes produce vague results. Define your vision with precision. What exactly will you be doing? With whom? Where? How will it feel? What impact will you create? The more detailed your mental picture, the more compelling it becomes as a driving force in your daily decisions. Daily visualization strengthens this internal map. Spend time each morning revisiting your vision in vivid detail. Let your mind inhabit this future reality, experiencing its sights, sounds, and emotions. This practice isn't escapism. It's strategic preparation for bringing this future into existence through focused action. First comes thought, then organization of that thought into ideas and plans, then transformation of those plans into reality. The thought forms the template, the plan creates the pathway. Consistent action manifests the reality. Begin today by clarifying your vision beyond current limitations. Make it compelling enough to pull you through inevitable obstacles. Remember that what you consistently envision internally eventually materializes externally, not through mystical processes, but through the power of directed action toward a clearly defined destination. Build your inner circle with intention. You were not meant to survive tough times alone. Who surrounds you matters. Your environment either lifts you up or drags you down. You must act as if your survival depends on strategic relationships, because it does. Survivors don't just have strength, they have support. But not random support, intentional alliances, people who challenge your weakness and protect your focus. The wrong company. William Wilberforce's mission to abolish the slave trade was relentless. But he was not alone. He surrounded himself with powerful thinkers, believers, and fighters who carried him when he was weak. That circle, known as the Clapham sect, became his strength. For 20 years, they strategized, wrote, funded, and pushed forward when opposition seemed insurmountable. Without them, Wilberforce's legacy might have been merely a failed attempt. Your inner circle isn't just about comfort. It's about completion. The people closest to you should possess strengths where you have weaknesses. They should speak truth when you need clarity. They should believe in your vision, especially when you temporarily lose sight of it. This isn't about quantity. 5 strategic relationships will transform your life more than 50 casual acquaintances. Be ruthlessly selective. Your capacity for deep connection is limited. Invest it wisely. Ask yourself, Does this person make me stronger, sharper, more focused, more courageous? If not, why are they in your inner circle? The architecture of your relationships determines the ceiling of your growth. Too many of us accept default connections rather than designing intentional ones. We inherit friendships from convenience rather than consciously cultivating those that serve our highest purpose. So ask yourself, who have you invited into your war room? Are they keeping you sharp or keeping you stuck? It's time to build alliances, not acquaintances. Find those who fan your fire and become that kind of person to others. In storms, ships don't sail alone. This works both ways. You must become the person others need in their inner circle. Contribution creates connection. Support creates strength. It is literally true that you can succeed best and quickest by helping others to succeed. The strongest circles operate on reciprocity, mutual elevation, not mutual entertainment. They're built on vulnerability, accountability, and shared purpose. They celebrate your victories as their own and treat your struggles as collective challenges. Periodically audit your relationships. Some connections that served you in the past may restrict your future. Growth often requires painful pruning. This isn't callous, it's crucial. Your mission deserves your best environment. Don't wait for a crisis to discover who truly belongs in your inner circle. Build it now, test it often, strengthen it daily. The relationships you forge in calm will determine whether you survive the storm. Your greatest achievements will never be solo performances. They will be symphonies, compositions of collective effort conducted through your vision. Choose your musicians carefully. The song of your life depends on who plays alongside you. Remember, you become who you surround yourself with. Choose wisely. Choose intentionally. Your future self will thank you. Speak only what builds you. Words are not neutral. Every word you speak becomes a seed in your own mind. And in tough times, what you say is what you start to see. That's why you must act as if your survival depends on your speech, because it does. Negative words invite negative outcomes. Sakurure, they erode your confidence from the inside. But when you speak strength, even when you feel weak, you begin rewiring the mind. Your body listens. Your environment listens. Even the storm listens, and it begins to shift. Franklin D. Roosevelt, stricken with polio, could have given up on leadership, but he spoke words of courage and resilience to a nation in despair. The only thing we have to fear is fear itself. His declarations weren't just political rhetoric. They were personal mantras that fortified his own resolve first. And that energy pulled not only himself, but an entire country out of darkness. Your words create your reality twice, first in your mind, then in your circumstances. This isn't mystical thinking, it's neurological fact. The language you use literally shapes the neural pathways through which you experience your life. Speak defeat consistently, and your brain becomes wired to spot evidence of impossibility. Speak victory, and suddenly opportunities appear where before you saw only obstacles. This discipline requires vigilance. Your mouth will naturally speak what your mind is full of. So fill your mind intentionally. Replace "I can't handle this" with "I'm built for challenges like this." Trade "this always happens to me" for "this is preparing me for something greater." Swap "I'm overwhelmed" for "I'm tackling this one step at a time." In combat, soldiers are trained never to announce their weaknesses to the enemy. Yet in life's battles, we often broadcast our vulnerabilities to ourselves and others. Every "I'm so tired" or "this is impossible" becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Your subconscious mind is always listening, always believing, always working to make your words reality. Your words are your weapons. Sharpen them, guard them, and use them to build the bridge from where you are to where you must go. Say, "I will endure." Say, "I was born for this." Say, "This storm ends with my victory." This practice isn't about denial, it's about direction. You can acknowledge reality without surrendering to it. "This is difficult" is an observation. "I can navigate this difficulty" is a declaration that creates momentum. The content of your speech reveals the content of your character. What you say repeatedly becomes what you believe inevitably. As Ralph Waldo Emerson observed, you become what you think about all day long, and your words are the mirror of your thoughts. Start a verbal revolution in your life. Audit your daily language. What phrases have become toxic habits? What statements undermine your strength? Then craft the language of the person you're becoming, not just the person you've been. Speak life when death seems certain. Speak abundance in seasons of lack. Speak peace in chaos. Speak clarity in confusion. Not as wishful thinking, but as warrior training, preparing your mind for the battles that require your best self. Your future is being constructed conversation by conversation. Build it with intention. The words that cross your lips today will cross your path tomorrow. Choose only those that lead where you intend to go. Your character is forged, not found in difficult times. Your character is not discovered, it is forged. Like iron under heat, your values, discipline, and inner strength are shaped by the pressure you face. That means survival isn't just about making it through. It's about who you become in the process. When you act as if the pain is shaping you for greatness, you stop resisting the fire and start using it. You realize that hardship isn't an interruption, it's an initiation. You are being called into a stronger version of yourself, not with ease, but with endurance. Theodore Roosevelt. He battled asthma, personal tragedy, and political opposition throughout his life, but every challenge sculpted him into the kind of leader who walked into gunfire without blinking. After being shot in the chest during a campaign speech, he refused medical attention until he finished speaking. He didn't wait to feel courageous. He built courage by answering hardship with commitment. Character formation follows a paradoxical truth. The very experiences we would avoid are often the ones we need most. Comfort creates complacency. Challenge creates character. Every time you endure when you could escape, persist when you could quit, or maintain integrity when no one would know the difference, you are adding another layer of strength to your inner foundation. This is why your response to difficulty matters more than the difficulty itself. Two people can face identical hardships and emerge entirely different. One becomes bitter, the other better. One becomes weaker, the other stronger. The difference isn't in what happened to them, but in how they happened to what happened to them. The greatest leaders, innovators, and pioneers throughout history share one common trait. They let their struggles transform them. Nelson Mandela emerged from 27 years of imprisonment not with vengeance, but with vision. Helen Keller turned dual disabilities into a platform for global impact. Their hardships weren't handicaps, they were crucibles of character. You must do the same. View every challenge as a chisel, carving away weakness and revealing your true form. Say to yourself, this moment is building my character. I will come out cleaner, clearer, and tougher. That mindset makes survival meaningful. Character cannot be inherited, purchased, or borrowed. It must be personally developed through consistent choices under pressure. As Alexander Hamilton noted, those who stand for nothing fall for anything. Your character is the one asset that cannot be taken from you. It can only be surrendered. This forging process requires intentionality. You must actively participate in your own character development. Question yourself daily. Am I becoming stronger or weaker through this challenge? More courageous or more fearful? More disciplined or more distracted? Then adjust accordingly. Remember that character is built in small moments that seem insignificant at the time. It's the daily decision to wake up early, speak truthfully, fulfill promises, and push beyond comfort. These choices compound into either strength or weakness depending on their direction. As Calvin Coolidge wisely observed, there is no development physically or intellectually without effort, and effort means work. Your character, the core of who you are, follows this same principle. It is developed through deliberate effort, not destined by circumstance. True survival means emerging not just alive, but alive with purpose. Not just breathing, but breathing fire. Not just existing, but existing with excellence. This is how you transform trials into triumph, by allowing difficulty to forge in you a character that outlasts the challenges that created it. Find your fighting reason. People don't endure pain for nothing. They endure because they've found a reason that's worth it. When you act as if your survival is tied to something bigger than you, the struggle gains meaning. And when life has meaning, you'll walk through anything. Most people suffer unnecessarily because they don't know what they're fighting for. You must find your reason. your family, your purpose, your dream, your future. That reason becomes your anchor in the storm. It reminds you, this pain is a price I've already decided to pay. Viktor Frankl, imprisoned in Nazi concentration camps, discovered that those who survived weren't necessarily the strongest physically. They were those who maintained a sense of purpose. In his darkest moments, Frankl held onto the image of lecturing after the war, teaching others what he had learned. That vision pulled him through unbearable conditions when others surrendered to despair. Your fighting reason transforms impossible challenges into necessary battles. It converts "I can't do this" into "I must do this." The difference is profound. Necessity awakens abilities that convenience never discovers. When something matters enough, you'll find strength you didn't know you possessed. This is why the world's greatest achievers rarely talk about motivation, they talk about mission. They've found something that compels them forward when feelings and circumstances push backward. Olympic athletes endure punishing training not from fleeting inspiration, but from unwavering dedication to a goal that matters deeply. Entrepreneurs work 18-hour days not from temporary excitement, but from commitment to a vision they cannot abandon. Your fighting reason must be specific. Vague aspirations produce vague effort. Success isn't concrete enough to fuel sacrifice. Providing a secure future for my children creates immediate emotional connection. Changing how healthcare serves rural communities provides clear direction. Creating art that helps people process trauma establishes both purpose and path. So ask yourself, what is your reason? What future do you refuse to surrender? Once you know, let it fuel every step, every breath, every fight. A person with a reason can outlast anything. Your reason will likely evolve. What drives you at 20 may differ from what drives you at 40. The parent fighting for their children's future becomes the mentor fighting for their community's transformation. The artist seeking personal expression becomes the teacher, opening creative pathways for others. As you grow, your fighting reason grows with you, becoming deeper, wider, and more connected to your authentic self. This fighting reason isn't just about enduring, it's about excelling. It transforms survival mode into purpose-driven living. You stop merely existing through challenges and start extracting meaning from them. Every obstacle becomes material for your mission. Every setback shapes your story. When your desires are strong enough, you will appear to possess superhuman powers to achieve. This isn't mystical thinking, it's psychological reality. The human spirit awakens fully only when connected to purpose. Without it, we operate at a fraction of our capacity. Find that reason, feel it deeply, frame it clearly, fight for it relentlessly, and watch as the impossible becomes inevitable, not because the challenge diminishes, but because your capacity to overcome it expands beyond what you ever thought possible. Make pressure your partner, not your prison. Pressure is not your enemy, it's your teacher. When you stop fearing it and start listening to it, it will guide you to strengths you didn't know you had. But if you let it crush you, it becomes a prison. You must act as if pressure was designed for you. Like weights in a gym, it builds you up when you engage with it instead of avoiding it. Pressure clarifies your priorities, sharpens your instincts, and demands growth. That's a gift, not a curse. Alfred Sloan, who took over General Motors during a time of chaos and competition. Rather than cracking under the weight, he reorganized the entire company, outmaneuvered competitors, and led it to industry dominance. He didn't collapse under pressure. He used it to create structure. Under his leadership, GM revolutionized the concept of professional management and created the template for modern corporations. That transformation happened not despite pressure, but because of it. The difference between extraordinary and average people isn't the absence of pressure, it's their relationship with it. Average people view pressure as punishment. Extraordinary people view it as preparation. They understand that pressure reveals what comfort conceals. It exposes weaknesses that need strengthening and illuminates strengths that deserve developing. Elite athletes understand this principle intimately. They deliberately train under conditions more demanding than competition. Navy SEALs operate by the mantra, the more you sweat in training, the less you bleed in battle. This isn't masochism. It's by partnering with pressure in controlled environments, they prepare for uncontrolled ones. This mindset transforms how you experience challenges. When deadlines tighten, when expectations rise, when competition intensifies, these aren't barriers to your success. They're the very conditions that make success meaningful. Diamond forms under pressure. So does your potential. Consider the pressure points in your life right now. Are you resisting them or relating to them? Are you fighting against the weight or lifting with it? The shift from victim to victor begins with this simple reframing. This pressure isn't happening to me, it's happening for me. Now it's your turn. When pressure shows up, don't say, "Why me?" Say, "This is my proving ground." Train yourself to remain calm, clear, and committed. Pressure doesn't break the prepared, it reveals them. This doesn't mean pressure feels good. Growth rarely does. But discomfort accepted becomes difficulty transformed. The pressure of today develops the power for tomorrow. Each challenge you embrace becomes capacity you expand. Practical mastery of pressure requires 3 disciplines. First, breathe through it. Oxygen feeds clarity when tension tightens. Second, focus through it. Attend to what matters most when distraction multiplies. Third, act through it. Motion conquers paralysis when uncertainty looms. Remember that pressure only imprisons those who resist what it reveals. When you face your limitations honestly, they become your starting points, not your stopping points. When you embrace your challenges openly, they become your teachers, not your tormentors. As Frederick Douglass wisely observed, out of resistance comes strength. Out of struggle comes progress. Let pressure push you not into panic, but into performance. Not into fear, but into focus. Not into retreat, but into resolve. Your greatest achievements will always live on the other side of your greatest pressures. Partner with them, learn from them, grow through them, and watch as what once threatened to imprison you becomes the very force that propels you toward freedom. Master the art of stillness in chaos. In tough times, movement is not always progress. Sometimes survival demands stillness. The ability to remain centered while the world around you spins. Stillness isn't passivity, it's power under control. You must act as if stillness is your strength, not your weakness. Chaos will always try to force a reaction, but you must learn to respond with clarity, not panic. The person who remains calm becomes the leader in every storm. Stillness helps you hear your own wisdom, not the noise of fear. Mahatma Gandhi faced an empire, yet his power came not from chaos, but from calm. His inner stillness disarmed armies and changed nations, because stillness is not doing nothing. It's doing the right thing at the right time, from a place of unshakable peace. In the ancient martial arts, masters teach that true power comes from centeredness, not aggression. The oak that remains rooted weathers the storm that uproots the willow that thrashes wildly. This is why meditation has been practiced by warriors throughout history, not to escape reality, but to engage it with full presence and precision. Stillness creates space between stimulus and response. That space, sometimes just a breath, is where your freedom lives. Without it, you become a prisoner to impulses, reactions, and fear-based decisions. With it, you gain the power to choose rather than simply react. You move from being the thermometer that merely reflects the temperature of your environment to the thermostat that influences it. Modern neuroscience confirms what ancient wisdom has always known. The mind in chaos makes poor decisions. Under extreme stress, blood flow decreases to your prefrontal cortex, the seat of rational thought, and increases to your limbic system, the center of emotional reactivity. Only by cultivating stillness can you reverse this pattern and maintain access to your highest cognitive functions when you need them most. This stillness must be practiced before it's needed. Like any skill, it cannot be summoned in crisis without prior training. Begin with small daily rituals. 5 minutes of morning meditation, moments of mindful breathing between meetings, deliberate pauses before responding to provocations. These practices build the neural pathways that enable stillness when chaos erupts. So when the pressure mounts, stop, breathe, center yourself, then choose your next move from a place of poise, not panic. In storms, stillness is the anchor that keeps your ship from drifting. Remember that stillness is not the absence of action, it's the foundation of effective action. It's not withdrawal from reality. It's deeper engagement with it. It's not weakness. It's the source of your greatest strength in moments that matter most. General Dwight D. Eisenhower captured this truth perfectly. Deliberate calmness under fire is the greatest asset of the leader in crisis. Cultivate this calmness as your competitive advantage. Let others be reactive, you be responsive. Let others be frantic, you be focused. Let others be consumed by the chaos, you be centered in the stillness that transforms it. Keep your word to yourself. In hard times, the promises you make to yourself matter most. Every time you keep your word, even when it's hard, you build trust in your own strength, and every time you break it, your confidence erodes. Survivors act as if their word is sacred. They don't just talk, they follow through. That inner integrity becomes their compass. Because when the outside world is uncertain, the one thing you must be able to count on is you. David Lloyd George, former Prime Minister of the UK. Rising from poverty and obscurity, he made a personal vow to improve the lives of working-class citizens. And even under opposition and war, he kept that promise. That commitment shaped his legacy. His social reforms, including national insurance and pension systems, transformed Britain because his inner commitment never wavered, even when external resistance mounted. Self-trust is built through consistent small victories. The alarm rings and you rise instead of hitting snooze. Victory. You commit to 30 minutes of focused work, and you deliver without distraction. Victory. You promise yourself you'll speak up in the meeting, and you do. Victory. These may seem insignificant in isolation, but together, they form the foundation of unshakable self-confidence. Most people underestimate how severely self-betrayal damages their psychological strength. When you tell yourself you'll start the project today, then you're not just postponing the project. You're teaching your subconscious that your word means nothing. You're programming yourself to expect failure. This inner fracture between intention and action creates an invisible weight that drags every future effort downward. The reverse is equally powerful. When you honor your word to yourself religiously, you develop an unspoken certainty that what you commit to happens. This certainty becomes the launching pad for increasingly challenging achievements. You build momentum through integrity. This principle extends beyond goal achievement to emotional resilience. When you promise yourself, I will not be defeated by this setback, that declaration becomes your anchor in the storm. But only if you've established a pattern of keeping your word. Your subconscious responds not to what you say, but to what you've trained it to believe through consistent action. Make your own inner commitment. Declare, I will rise. Then do it. No matter how small the step, honor it. Speak with integrity. Act with follow-through. That is how survivors turn belief into reality, by proving to themselves they mean what they say. Start with promises you can keep. Build from there. If you've broken your word to yourself consistently, begin rebuilding trust with modest commitments. Better to promise yourself 5 minutes of exercise and deliver than to vow an hour and quit. Each kept promise restores faith in your word. Your relationship with yourself sets the template for every other relationship in your life. When you honor your commitments to yourself, you develop the integrity that others come to rely on. You become not just trustworthy to others, but trusted by yourself. The man who does more than he is paid for will soon be paid for more than he does. The person who delivers more than they promise themselves will soon find themselves capable of promising and achieving far more than they ever thought possible. Turn setbacks into signals. Setbacks are not signs that you've failed. They're signals pointing you toward refinement. You must act as if every failure is feedback, not final. Most people collapse because they misread the message. They think this means stop, but in truth it often means shift, adapt, grow. A survivor looks at setbacks like a chess player, strategically. What lesson can be extracted? What adjustment needs to be made? You must refuse to personalize failure. It's not about your worth, it's about your method. Change the plan, not the purpose. Charles Goodyear faced ruin multiple times before discovering the vulcanization process that transformed rubber into a durable material. His setbacks didn't stop him. They guided him. He acted as if each failure was a puzzle piece, not a dead end. For 5 years, he endured poverty, ridicule, and countless failed experiments. He even sold his children's school books to fund his research. But with each failed attempt, he gained critical insight. The accidental spill of rubber and sulfur onto a hot stove wasn't luck. It was the culmination of thousands of strategic failures that positioned him to recognize the breakthrough when it arrived. This mindset requires emotional discipline. When facing failure, your first reaction will be disappointment, perhaps even shame. Acknowledge these feelings, but don't let them dictate your next move. Instead, activate your analytical mind. Dissect the failure. Was it a flawed strategy, insufficient preparation, bad timing, external factors beyond your control? Each diagnosis points to a different correction. The quality of your questions determines the quality of your comeback. Poor questions like, "Why does this always happen to me?" or "What's wrong with me?" lead nowhere. Powerful questions like, "What specifically went wrong?" and "What would make this work next time?" create pathways forward. Reframe setbacks as essential calibrations on your journey. The pilot, whose flight plan requires constant adjustment due to weather and wind, doesn't consider these adjustments failures. They're necessary navigational responses that ensure arrival at the destination. Your life requires the same dynamic navigation. So the next time something falls apart, ask better questions. What is this trying to teach me? What's the next intelligent move? Let your setbacks sharpen your intelligence, not dull your ambition. There's a way through, but only if you stay alert to the signs. Resilience isn't about avoiding failure. It's about transforming its meaning. A rejection becomes market research. A mistake becomes education. A loss becomes preparation. This alchemical ability to transmute setbacks into strategy separates those who merely survive from those who ultimately thrive. Every failure brings with it the seed of an equivalent success. Your job is not to avoid the failure, but to find the seed, plant it, and nurture what grows. That is how setbacks become the very soil from which your greatest achievements will eventually emerge. Practice gratitude under pressure. Gratitude is not just for good times. It is most powerful in pressure. You must act as if thankfulness is your shield, because it is. Gratitude reframes pain and keeps your mind above the waves. When you practice gratitude in hardship, you train your brain to see opportunity instead of oppression. It's not delusion, it's discipline. Your circumstances don't have to change for your perspective to change. And once that shifts, your energy rises. Viktor Frankl, surviving the unspeakable horrors of Nazi concentration camps, discovered this truth at the extreme edge of human suffering. Even there, he found that no one could take away his freedom to choose his attitude. Everything can be taken from a man, but one thing. He wrote, "The last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances." This is the essence of gratitude under pressure. The conscious choice to find meaning even in suffering. Neuroscience confirms what Frankl discovered through experience. Gratitude literally rewires your brain. When practiced consistently, thankfulness increases dopamine and serotonin levels, creating neural pathways that strengthen with each repetition. This doesn't just feel better, it functions better. Studies show that grateful people demonstrate greater resilience, make clearer decisions under pressure, and recover faster from setbacks. This doesn't mean pretending everything is perfect. Authentic gratitude acknowledges difficulty while refusing to be defined by it. It's saying, "This situation is challenging, and I'm thankful for the resources, relationships, and inner strength I'm discovering through it." The "and" is crucial. It holds both reality and possibility simultaneously. The practice begins simply. Each morning, identify 3 specific things you're grateful for, especially during your most pressured seasons. Make them concrete and immediate. Not just my health, but the energy I felt during my walk this morning. Not just my family, but my daughter's encouraging text yesterday. Specificity strengthens the neural pathways of gratitude. Next, transform complaints into expressions of gratitude. When you catch yourself saying, "I have to work late again," shift to, "I get to contribute to a project that matters." When thinking, "This problem is overwhelming," redirect to, "I'm thankful for the capacity to solve difficult challenges." This isn't semantic games, it's strategic reframing that alters your brain chemistry and emotional stance. Gratitude also serves as a connection point when pressure isolates. Expressing appreciation to others, even for small contributions, strengthens your support system precisely when you need it most. The person who remains thankful under pressure never truly fights their battles alone. Start where you are. Be thankful not because it's perfect, but because it's purposeful. Even pressure is proof that you're alive, growing, and engaged. Gratitude doesn't ignore reality, it transforms it. Say thank you, especially when it's hardest to say. Remember that gratitude isn't just something you feel, it's something you practice until it becomes your default response to pressure. As Dietrich Bonhoeffer, who wrote on gratitude while imprisoned by the Nazis, noted, "In ordinary life, we hardly realize that we receive a great deal more than we give, and that it is only with gratitude that life becomes rich. As Khalil Gibran wisely observed, you give but little when you give of your possessions. It is when you give of yourself that you truly give." Gratitude is that gift, offering your whole perspective as an act of courage when pressure would demand your surrender instead. Focus on what you control. In survival, clarity is key, and nothing brings clarity like focusing only on what you can control. Too many people waste their strength on things outside their hands, other people's opinions, the past, or unpredictable futures. But you must act as if your focus is your fortress. Control your effort. Control your attitude. Control your preparation. These are your tools. Everything else is distraction, and distraction is the enemy of survival. Admiral Horatio Nelson, one of Britain's most celebrated naval leaders, didn't focus on the size of opposing fleets. He focused on maneuver, strategy, morale. He maximized what he controlled, and that's what made him victorious against overwhelming odds. At the Battle of Trafalgar, outnumbered and facing the combined fleets of France and Spain, Nelson focused on what he could influence: innovative tactical formation, superior training, and the fighting spirit of his men. While others might have fixated on the enemy's numerical advantage, Nelson directed his energy toward his sphere of control. The result was one of history's most decisive naval victories. This principle extends beyond warfare into every domain of human achievement. The Stoic philosophers of ancient Rome called it the dichotomy of control, the wisdom to distinguish between what we can and cannot influence. As Epictetus wrote in his Enchiridion, some things are within our power while others are not. Within our power are opinion, motivation, desire, aversion, and in a word, whatever is of our own doing. Not within our power are our body, our property, reputation, office, and in a word, whatever is not of our own doing. This distinction isn't merely philosophical, it's practical. When you obsess over uncontrollables, you create internal turbulence that clouds judgment, wastes energy, and paralyzes action. When you focus on controllables, you generate momentum that propels you forward regardless of external circumstances. Even in the most constrained situations, you maintain control over critical variables: your response to events, your internal dialogue, your physical effort, your learning orientation, and your values-based decisions. These factors may seem small compared to the magnitude of challenges you face, but they compound over time into the difference between breakdown and breakthrough. The skill of redirecting focus from uncontrollables to controllables requires daily practice. When anxiety rises about outcomes beyond your reach, ask yourself, what's one thing within my control that I can act on right now? This question shifts you from the paralysis of worry to the power of action. The lesson is simple. Obsess over your circle of control. Let go of what drains your power. Your energy is sacred. Don't waste it on storms you can't stop. Channel it where it counts. That's how survivors win, by narrowing their focus and sharpening their actions. Elite performers in every field, from business to athletics to crisis management, share this fundamental orientation. They don't waste energy complaining about market conditions, opponent advantages, or limited resources. Instead, they invest fully in execution, adaptation, and continuous improvement, the factors they can directly influence. You are the master of your destiny. You can influence, direct, and control your own environment. This mastery begins not with controlling everything, but with the discipline to focus exclusively on what you can control. That focus doesn't just help you survive, it becomes the foundation upon which you ultimately thrive. Act in spite of uncertainty is a luxury you cannot afford in tough times. You must act in spite of uncertainty. The most powerful moves are made not when the road is clear, but when you choose to walk anyway. Courage is action in the presence of unknowns. Stop waiting for everything to align. Move forward with what you know. Just as you go, trust your instincts. You won't always get it right, but motion creates clarity. Stagnation breeds doubt, and doubt deepens paralysis. This is the death spiral of inaction, waiting for perfect information that never arrives. Antarctic explorer Ernest Shackleton, when his expedition went horribly wrong and his ship Endurance was crushed by ice in 1915, he didn't freeze in indecision. With 27 men stranded on ice floes thousands of miles from civilization, Shackleton made bold, consequential decisions. He led his men across treacherous ice, launched small lifeboats into the world's most dangerous seas, and personally embarked on an 800-mile journey through hurricane-forced winds to find rescue. His leadership wasn't perfect, but it was decisive. Every move challenged conventional wisdom, yet every move saved lives. The human mind craves certainty. Neurologically, uncertainty triggers the amygdala, your brain's threat detection center. This biological response explains why indecision feels so uncomfortable. Your primitive brain interprets the unknown as danger, prompting you to freeze. But survival often requires overriding this instinct. The most successful leaders and innovators aren't those with more certainty, they're those who've developed higher tolerance for uncertainty. Acting doesn't mean recklessness. It means refusing to be paralyzed by the unknown. You can't predict everything, but you can decide something, and that decision builds momentum. In darkness, even a small step is powerful. Intelligent action amid uncertainty follows a pattern. Gather the best available information, establish clear priorities, make a decision, commit fully, and remain adaptable. The last point is crucial. Commitment doesn't mean rigidity. As General Dwight D. Eisenhower noted, plans are worthless, but planning is everything. The process prepares you for adaptation when reality inevitably differs from expectation. Historical figures who changed the world didn't wait for certainty. Martin Luther King Jr. couldn't be certain his methods would succeed. Florence Nightingale couldn't be certain her medical reforms would be accepted. Marie Curie couldn't be certain her scientific theories were correct. Yet they acted not because they knew the outcome, but because they knew their purpose. This principle applies equally to personal challenges. The entrepreneur launching despite market volatility, the student choosing a path without guarantees, the person leaving toxic relationships for uncertain futures. In each case, action amid uncertainty isn't just brave, it's necessary for growth. Remember that uncertainty never fully disappears. Even seemingly certain decisions carry hidden variables. The illusion of perfect knowledge is just that, an illusion. The question isn't whether uncertainty exists, but whether you'll let it control you or whether you'll move forward anyway. Start with small, decisive actions that build confidence. Each step forward increases your capacity for bigger leaps later. Movement generates its own momentum. The person in motion tends to stay in motion, accumulating both information and courage that the stationary never receive. As W.H. Murray wrote in his Scottish Himalayan expedition, until one is committed, there is hesitancy, the chance to draw back, always ineffectiveness. The moment one definitely commits oneself, then providence moves too. This isn't mystical thinking. It's psychological reality. Commitment amid uncertainty doesn't eliminate the unknown, but it activates resources both within and around you. Do not wait. The time will never be just right. Start where you stand and work with whatever tools you may have at your command, and better tools will be found as you go along. Live as if victory is inevitable. You must act as if you were born to win, not occasionally, but consistently. This mindset is not arrogance, it is alignment. When you live as if victory is inevitable, you make decisions from confidence, not fear. That energy reshapes your actions and, over time, your results. You don't wish your way through tough times. You walk through them like the outcome has already been decided in your favor. That posture forces the world to meet you with respect. People follow the one who refuses to flinch. Madam C.J. Walker, born to former slaves just after the Civil War, she faced poverty, racism, and gender discrimination. Yet she carried herself with unshakable conviction that she would succeed. While working as a washerwoman, she developed her own line of hair care products for black women. She didn't just hope for success, she expected it. She built a manufacturing company, trained thousands of women as sales agents, and became America's first female self-made millionaire. Her certainty created her reality. This mindset isn't blind optimism, it's strategic positioning. When you approach challenges as inevitable victories, you access creativity and courage that remain dormant in the doubtful mind. Neuroscience confirms this. Your brain literally functions differently when operating from certainty rather than insecurity. In states of confidence, your prefrontal cortex, the seat of higher thinking, activates fully. In states of fear, your amygdala hijacks your cognitive resources. Victory thinking is not just motivational, it's neurological. General George Patton embodied this principle during World War II. Never take counsel of your fears, he instructed his troops. His bold, offensive strategies stemmed from unshakable confidence in ultimate victory. Even when facing temporary setbacks, he maintained this fundamental posture. I don't measure a man's success by how high he climbs, but by how high he bounces when he hits bottom. This resilience wasn't just personal philosophy. It translated directly into battlefield effectiveness. The mindset of inevitable victory also transforms daily habits. When you know you'll succeed, you don't waste energy on contingency planning for failure. Instead, you invest fully in preparation, execution, and persistence. You train harder, study longer, and work with greater focus, not from desperation, but from certainty. You embrace challenges not as threats, but as necessary steps in your predetermined path to greatness. This perspective reframes obstacles completely. What others see as roadblocks, you see as setup for your comeback story. What others interpret as rejection, you recognize as redirection towards something better. What others experience as failure, you classify as feedback. The inevitable victor doesn't deny difficulty. They simply refuse to be defined by it. Living as if victory is inevitable doesn't guarantee immediate success. It guarantees resilience through temporary defeat. It ensures you'll still be standing when others have surrendered. It keeps you in the game long enough for momentum to build. As Winston Churchill noted after years of wartime struggle, success is not final, failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts. That courage flows naturally from certainty. You must do the same. Stand tall, speak boldly, work diligently, not because you hope it works out, but because you know who you are becoming. Victory is not a question, it's your standard, and the world eventually yields to the one who refuses to quit. This mindset requires daily reinforcement. Your mind naturally gravitates toward doubt. Evolutionary psychology explains why. Our ancestors survived by anticipating threats, not by expecting victory. You must actively counter-program this tendency through consistent affirmation, visualization, and calibrated goal setting. Like any muscle, victory thinking strengthens with deliberate exercise. Cultivate relationships with others who share this orientation. Certainty is contagious, but so is doubt. Surround yourself with those who speak of when, not if. Their energy reinforces yours, creating an ecosystem of inevitable achievement that lifts everyone involved. Whatever the mind of man can conceive and believe, it can achieve. When the world feels like it's collapsing, remember this: you were meant to endure, to rise, and to conquer. Don't run. Don't fold. Stand tall in the fire. Train your mind, sharpen your will, and push forward with quiet power. Your breakthrough is buried beneath the pressure. Dig deeper. Rise stronger.